Guys, it's time to build the TLR tuned LMT. This is a monster truck by LOSI, and I've got to tell you, I've got my hopes up. Full carbon chassis, this thing should be phenomenal. I'm gonna try to show you guys all the details I can, so let's get right to the action. Let's go.
Here we go, guys. Oh man, oh, kits. Tons of work, you know, but that's what a kit is. Every part, every piece. The biggest thing I want to look at are okay. Chances are good I will not be using these stock housings, even on the very first build. Ah, the new suspension arms. These are neat to see. I want to mess with those. In fact, I'm going to mess with everything. Diff oil, shock oils, alright. The carbon parts. That's what's going to make this thing so nice. Carbon parts, pieces. So it looks like the exact same chassis, just in carbon. So we've got limit straps on this one. Very nice to keep those shocks in check. Spare hardware. That's nice to see. Oh, sway bar ends. Alright, time to get busy. The number one tool I'm using is the Helios multi-tool right here. I use this thing all the time in the impact, everything. All three diffs are pretty much the same. There is one different. The front and rear diff are the exact same. The center diff actually has a different output. That way you can hook drive shafts to it. And the final fill on this looks like about like that. In case you're wondering, I did not tighten that all the way down with the drill. I just simply pulled them up where you can see, hopefully you can see a little bit of that, just to take up a little bit less time. Three diffs are done. These are the axle diffs right here with 100K diff oil, and this is the center diff with 500K diff oil. The drive shafts go on these right here. That's why it is not like this. And now it's time for the suspension links. The new links are nice. Now keep in mind the shocks now go on the links. So the rod ends will actually have a load on them like this. So hopefully everything will hold up. I'm sure it will, right? Now the book shows these pieces right here going into the arms with some thread lock. I prefer to go this route right here. So we'll have to see how it works out, but this is my choice to go this way with it. Now, the holes are in line, so there shouldn't be any torque side to side, and there aren't reverse threads, so it shouldn't just simply back out and come loose either. So should be all right with that. Putting the upper links together was the exact same process as the lowers, just obviously different bars. It's time for shock and awe. We have the springs, we have the shock bodies, we have the shock tops, which are nice metal. We've got the shock adjusters right here. We've got the O-rings. We got all this wonderful stuff. And let's see what we can do to put this together. As I'm building this, there are a few things I do when I build my shocks. So this might get a little bit technical, and I'm going to try to explain exactly what I'm doing. LOSI was paying attention. No more E-clips. Those were known for breaking up and falling apart, so therefore we had to go with the Proline shocks. These right here are a simple threaded nut design, so much better design right here. Now I'm just simply going to tighten this up. Just to show you again, there is a washer underneath the piston. This is because when you jump, because this is a monster truck and you land real hard, there's a lot of force on that piston in the down position because the shock shaft is trying to go up, and that helps to spread the load. Now it's time for the shock body and the seals. For now, I'm going to leave this loose, and I want to explain why. I'm going to drop a little bit of 40 weight oil, which is what goes in the shocks, down into the O-rings, and then using a simple little shock shaft size tool that's got a nice smooth transition, just simply work it in and out, get everything lubed up. That way when you put the shock shaft in, it goes right in nice and smooth. I also put a few drops down in the chamber there. You can see that go right down into it. Then I put the tip in right through here, kind of move it around a little bit, make sure everything is flowing nice and smooth, get that lined up with the hole, and then you just kind of push it in, work it a little bit, nice and easy, because you don't want to actually tear the O-rings up. So you don't want to tear the walls of the seals up. Then once you get that through nice and easy, there we go. Once you get that through all the way in, all right, you have good smooth movement, right? Then you can simply take a little bit of the oil and put right here to kind of lube that O-ring up, then pull this in tight. Just nice, easy, all the way down, and there you go. And now the shaft is firmly put in there. The seals are in great shape, and we can move on. At this point, put the bump stop on. Slide that all the way down to there. That'll hold this out, and get to put this on. Using shock shaft pliers of your choice, you don't want to let the shaft spin while you're trying to put the end on it. So hold that pretty well. Notice the threads are actually a pretty nice length on this one. So LOSI was paying attention there too, because some of those pulled out in the older trucks. When you're done, you want the threads fully inside of the end right here. You don't want them things to mess around with you. Everything feels super smooth. Here you have your spring adjuster. Little collar thing. Got to put that O-ring into here. And if I can get this done on camera. You get this in, this helps hold it in position. So when you make the adjustments and you got the vehicle bouncing around, all that stuff, this helps hold things in position. And I somehow managed to actually get that in pretty well. Now, you're also supposed to lube this up a little bit, and my fingers have a little bit of lube left over from putting the shaft in the hole with the O-rings and all that stuff. So just simply going to slide it on right here. It should thread. There we go. Beautiful shocks, LOSI. These are much nicer shocks. I mean, they really went above and beyond. Now, as I'm tightening this up, if you look into there, hopefully we can see it. You see a little bit of lube that I put in there on the piston. That way everything flows nice and smooth. With the spring retainer on, just clipped into place, you put it all the way in, and this is as far as it's going to go. Look at how far down that piston is. There should be no issues with cavitation. So yeah, we should be plenty good to go. Almost like as if maybe they'll offer a longer shaft for this body of shock, because there's plenty of room for more shaft there. And with more shaft, you get more drop, more pull out. To the shock cap here, you can see the shock cap is vented. However, on this shock, I found it was easier to put the diaphragm into the cap. And once you get the diaphragm into the cap, for me, it was actually a little bit easier to put it onto the shock. Simply push that right in there, nice and gentle. You don't want to poke any holes in it. Just make sure it's fully seated, and there you are. Using the 40 weight shock oil provided, I'm going to hold up right there, work it in, out, make sure all the air bubbles are out of the oil. Like I said, this is a diaphragm shock. It's not emulsion, so there should not be any air pockets, any of that stuff going on in here. I'm not sure if you guys can see at the angle of the camera and all that, but the air pockets are up. Everything is nice, smooth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this all the way compressed, and that's how I'm going to assemble it. Go ahead and top this off. I'm not going all the way to the top now because the diaphragm is going to take up some of that space, probably about maybe 2 millimeters down into it right now. And then the top with the diaphragm on it. Hold up a second, I gotta do something else. Gotta put this on here. This helps seal the top a little bit better. Like I say, a very nice shock by LOSI. Very nice shock. Now what we can do is we can add a little bit of oil to the O-ring right here. I actually should have done that to begin with, but this will help everything seat up into there. Nice and smooth. Make sure the shock is fully compressed. And just simply pull it. This should all tighten down perfectly by hand. You don't have to worry about that hole right there just yet. Make sure everything is in. Fingernails, guys. Fingernails are kind of useful. Pull it a little bit. Make sure O-ring is fully seated. Looking good, looking good. And you get all the way down, and there you go. What you're hearing there is the diaphragm moving. And the diaphragm moves because there is a space from the shock shaft itself, a displacement from the shock shaft. So the piston, the diaphragm is doing its job. Now we're going to get the little screw put in the hole, in the bleeder hole. And once again, shock fully compressed. Put this in. This has that little washer on it. There's a little brass washer in there, and that helps to seal this. Very nice shock cap. You don't want to crank this thing down hard. It's just a 1.5 millimeter hex wrench. You want to bring that down pretty well just to hold that into place. Perfect. And now it's as simple as putting the spring on with the retainer right here. I've also got to put the ball into place. We'll go ahead and get that real quick. Done. And the screw that holds the bottom shock cap in place is right there. And that also uses a 1.5 millimeter hex wrench. So we'll get that all taken care of. And there you go. I want to go over my way of putting the shocks together fully compressed. The reason is the shock shaft has a displacement, and as that shock shaft goes in, the oil has to go somewhere. We heard the piston, the diaphragm doing its thing, right? Kind of popping back and forth. That was showing the displacement of the shock shaft. On small bore shocks, if you have too much oil and you go to compress them, whether they have a bleeder screw or not, if that diaphragm is all the way in, boom, it does not work. It'll hydrolock. This is as far as you can go. Now, if you have a crawler shock and it has a bleeder screw on it, you just simply push it all the way in, set the screw in where at that point, and then you have a vacuum in the system. It'll kind of help against leaks, but it'll also allow you full range of motion. So that's why I always set my shocks like this. On the larger bore shocks, it doesn't matter all that much. I mean, it does. It's just a practice that I always do. So this shock is done. The fronts assemble the exact same way. So I'm just simply going to get those done. The shocks are done. In the book, it clearly states green and orange. Green being a 3.0 pound spring and the orange being a 3.6 pound spring. I have green and silver. So I just kind of did the old finger test on these things, and the green was softer than the silver, so it's still the front with the green and the silver for the rear. So that's what I ended up on my LMT.
Believe it or not, that was over 2 hours of footage edited down. So yeah, all the way through the shocks. Up next, I get to do the chassis, all that wonderful stuff. So yeah, if you're still watching, hopefully I'm able to show you guys some of the details of the build of this, and hopefully I'm doing it right. So guys, check that description. Use those links, hit that subscribe, and ring that bell. Part 2 is up soon. Catch you later. If you're still watching, you are top shelf. You are the cream of the crop, the pick of the litter. You are phenomenal. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. Now, down below, there are links for the products you see. Also for channel memberships, if you guys want to be a part. Channel members get early viewing on pretty much everything that I can. So guys, check that description. There's a lot of info down there. Thank you all for watching.